Today's Everything Great About Video was sponsored by SKILLSHARE. More on that later. Memories. Memories of all the X's holding out for a few frames that we'll never see again. This time a little Phoenix Force fire.
Or can we evolve, become something more?
Mirroring Charles's opening to X-Men films, Jean hints at becoming Phoenix, but really it's more about what she overcomes and how she becomes her own person at the end.
Jean, what are you?
I don't know. It's not me.
There's always been unease about Jean's power level, and establishing that even at a young age she can't control it sets up her future really well. Oh, that's brutal. And clearly practical, making it even more unnerving. Force field effect is tight and plays out thematically in a very satisfying way later on. Already a little Phoenixy.
They're dead, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
His face can be read as, how do you tell a child terrible news, but also, am I really gonna lie to this child about her dad and also mess with her memory? Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
Just take it. It's a gift.
Ha, get it? You can either bend a few trees or disintegrate people. Look, say what you gotta say about this movie. Hans Zimmer killed with this score. It's beautiful, but always foreboding. Always something under the surface as the notes slide together slightly off key. And this main theme is used throughout. There's barely a moment of levity.
If you break something, anything, I can fix it.
Not anything.
Raven kebab shadowing? That's cold. Who's been messing with my script?
You think you can fix me too?
No, because you are not broken.
Nuggets of simple yet profound encouragement. Classic yellow Grant Morrison-like X suits.
Doing space missions now. Cool.
Cool-headedness.
Technically,
It'll get us there. Let's go.
Whoopsie, J-Law's between scene dialogue made it into the movie. The real travesty is the money wasted on basketballs over the next 8 years.
President has called in the aid of the X-Men.
One thing I'll say for this time jump is that we rarely get to see a world that loves the help of the X-Men throughout any of this franchise. And that's fulfilling. Again, the score has picked up now, but that melody line is still there, tapping you on the shoulder, reminding you that all is not right, even if it's loud and filled in enough to exude a little bit of triumph. And I love it. And so many of the X-Men movies are about building an often pseudo-team. It's nice to see them formed with Raven in charge and each knowing their role and contributing.
No, Raven, no. We're not leaving anyone behind.
Oof. Altruism or optics? Follow through isn't perfect, but they started dancing with some real moral dilemmas. She's pulling it away from the ship and towards herself. Self-sacrifice. The undusting makes me uncomfortable, but is also pretty cool. Love some good fiery eyes.
It's all just a means to an end, Raven.
What end is that?
Keeping us safe. Keeping the peace.
By risking our people to save theirs.
Yes, yes!
I actually believe him. They push the envelope here. The sort of spoken subtext is that a few mutants are worth sacrificing for the greater mutant good. Thankfully, 90s fashion is back. Or at least our fixed version of it is. Made wardrobes easy. Heh. Jessica's dress has an X neckline. She never had a chance. Oh, brutal. Some Dazzler stans are sad that this is all we got. Some are happy we got this. But she's got party tricks.
What do you think the X in X-Men stands for?
Every children's book we own says xylophone, so that's my best guess. Oh, it's Xavier. He must have felt a disturbance in the Phoenix Force. Hey, writer of the Dark Phoenix saga, Chris Claremont. Dude's a win. You know, people are always letting their loved ones just collapse on the floor with no concern for their noggins. Jean is nice about it, gently setting people down throughout this movie.
You didn't even say goodbye.
I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to your mother.
Oof, no holding back on that one. Bad Dad Award.
I'm sorry, Jean, but my whole world died that day.
You gotta nerf him, you gotta nerf him. I'm mostly wondering about the logistics of this. I get what they're saying, but it would make less sense if we were shown this tumble from his perspective. Just stop moving that fast. His momentum never otherwise seems to matter. Meh, cool idea anyway. We get this first-person point of view with Raven looking right into camera as if we're Jean, showing the background fading out and slipping away, really putting us inside Jean's head. Also, the sometimes subtle, sometimes overt visual indication of the Phoenix Force with her hair looking like it's in zero G. A man who can act more with his face than most can with their entire bodies. Well, that'll get you. And makes it clear no one is safe. I mean, it's all over anyway, so we're on edge now.
Please, you still can't see what you did wrong? It's just No, you.
A moment we don't usually get. We know Charles is wrong. Hank is finally willing to admit it after sticking by his side no matter what.
I hope that railing on me 5 minutes after I put my foster sister in the grave has made you feel a
This
damn.
isn't about me.
And to have Charles instead internalize the pain gives us a strange feeling.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Gray.
It's creepier that I believe she actually pities the helpless little creature, like a human talking to an ape, yet she still decides to torture him. And with the atomic purple nurple, the most controversial interrogation tactic. JK, that's brutal. You see that Genosha's an island, safe to assume they don't have a crane, and then you see metal shipping containers stacked up and at the top of trees. Wonder who lives here? Not to mention a ship and the idea that these could just be shipping containers that fell off of barges. Now that's an entrance.
I don't know what's happening to me.
Historically, even situationally, it seems weird that Jean would go to Eric. She killed accidentally, but not only does she not really know Eric's whole story, where else is she gonna go?
Show me what
I
happens,
don't want to
Jean.
hurt you.
What happens when you're angry? Show me what happens.
Love that they went with cracks for the Phoenix Force as if her facade is cracking. It's a nice touch that it's there after she threatens him with Hulk Smash, even if it seems like she was in control. And there's her hair again, signaling the Phoenix Force sliding into control. And the choppers really being there in this scene, sans rotors, makes the entire thing feel real, because it is real. There's some teamwork in there, I think. I really don't hate how she just lifts off like that now.
How did you find me?
Let's just say I have friends in high places.
Ha, like space.
It's dead.
Michael Fassbender still in the top 5 actors to be a part of this franchise, which is saying something.
A pure and unimaginably powerful cosmic force.
I might catch some flack for this, but it seems deliberate that the Phoenix Force is just called a force, which allows continuity with Apocalypse. I just don't get tired of themes building around Magneto, and even when he's doing evil, can't help but get hyped up. Also the subtle, well, it's not a subtle cut, but the implication that Charles knows that because he can no longer read Eric's mind, Eric is prepared to fight, like a telepathic round chambering. It's more like putting on body armor. Now let's go with the gun thing.
You're always sorry, Charles, and there's always a speech, but nobody cares anymore.
Hey, I care, guys. I care. Disney can't take these away from me. Not from my heart. Man, Eric's still a badass bad guy. I love that they felt the need to be like, no, his hair is serious. It cuts through metal. Be afraid. I'll say, for a movie with not a ton of action up until now, this fight is fun. Everyone uses their powers intelligently. It's not just energy blast against energy blast. Ooh, Jean's eyes glowing in the dark with that Phoenix fire. Love that even though everyone else is still fighting, Eric's theme slowly takes over since he's eclipsing the fight with the train car. Another practical effect where, I swear, the first time I saw this I thought to myself, that rubble absolutely just hit Michael Fassbender's leg, and I was right. Dude's so stoic he didn't even react when the train stopped 6 feet later than it was supposed to. That's a pretty insane showcase of power. Still got nothing on Tom Cruise, but hey, we can't all be Tom Cruise. Love the idea that her power just radiates out around her, affecting even the molecular integrity of the wall behind her. Good way to establish your badness. Use the symbol of the main series villain against them while destroying said symbol in the process. Resourcefulness.
Cut! You alright? No!
Honesty.
What are you?
Love that little stutter as Charles realizes he can't read her mind and that she's not even human.
Please, Jean.
That's just about the most unsettling thing in this movie. Also, one of the few lines Jean crosses that's genuinely dark. Jean's score has also disappeared during the street battle, but is now slipping back in, reminding us to stop relaxing.
As long as there's someone to care for her who believes, then there's still hope.
Family defined right there. Comes up later, too. Hugging? Also, kind of generosity?
Jean, let go.
Last time he was telling her to let go, it was to unleash her inner Phoenix.
Jean, let go!
Now it's to take it back. Cyclops to the rescue. I'm not saying healing factors are the most unique things in comic book movies, but the X-Men did start with one as its first whoa moment. At least for me. We have come a long way, friends.
Raven had the right of it. Jean was never the villain. I was. I was wrong.
Admitting when you're wrong. Soon, my friend. Soon. Okay, well, maybe not you specifically. So many people complained about this scene. Smaller rounds minorly inconvenience the Dabari. Larger rounds inconvenience them more. It's that simple. Okay, the fast-paced camera work with the normal appearance of the aliens but faster than normal movements makes for a fun set piece. Alright, I'm eating my words, possibly words you haven't heard yet, but this same melody line now has triumph behind it with the mutants standing between the aliens and the humans. Yikes, Eric, you forget you're in a PG-13 movie here? Alright. I also feel like we've never really gotten Beast going to town like this. He always fights, but even for PG-13, I finally feel like he's a dangerous force. I mean, there really is only room for, what, 2 telepaths? Ooh, brutal. And for those slightly confused, Kirk vowed to not kill anyone, but it seems like the trolley problem has come for him and he's made his choice. Or, you know, variation of that. Yowzers, more brutality. Teamwork? Oh man, and that's a badass, sometimes bad, sometimes good guy. And a badass bad girl. And look, Jessica Chastain and Bryce Dallas Howard are not related, but Ron Howard has confused them, so I get to make a joke about doing unbelievable things in heels. Wait, I forgot to make the joke!
All I ever wanted was to protect you and give you what you deserved.
A family. I know you did what you did out of love. I forgive you.
Even an admittedly rushed emotional moment still gets me. Family, man. Family.
I know what I need to do now.
What is that?
Protect my family.
And no amount of rushing can stop that line and showcase of pure power from giving me chills. You know, the type of power that doesn't take effort, just disintegrating metal on a whim. I like both types. Eric moving that satellite way back when, Jean atomizing stuff. And now I'm reminded of the first time Jean used these force fields. She's still the one causing the vehicle to spin and crash, but this time she's protecting her family rather than just herself. Super into the way Sophie plays this moment. Almost dead-eyed, as if the Phoenix Force is completely taken over at this point, but now she's in control of it. Like a pen. For writing, rather than eye-gouging. And maybe we have a Superman problem, but for a quick final battle, I love it. Sometimes it's fun to watch someone Neo their way through all threats. I mean, who needs an Infinity Gauntlet when you have Phoenix Force? And the frenetic camera movement is new for X-Men and puts you on the edge of your seat. I feel like Mauro Fiore, the DP, is channeling George Richmond and Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman camera movements. I mean, who needs a time stone when you have a Phoenix? Super fun 360 spin around them where perspectives shift with the camera angle. Vuk initially seems like she's stealing the power, but then you realize that Jean has complete control of the Force now and is actually showboating a little. Step back, idiot. I mean, whoa. Once you get touched by the power, I imagine you're sort of stuck there. More importantly, the thematic reason it happens to remind Jean that there are always consequences for how you use your gifts, but this time she can take them all on herself.
Your emotions make you weak. My emotions make me strong.
Her humanity, her emotions, making her feel the need to save her family. It's funny that Vuk points out twice that Jean isn't a little girl.
Are you a scared little girl who answers to a man in a chair? She's not your little girl anymore.
And should be making her own decisions, but all the while is manipulating Jean for her own purposes the same way Charles at least ended up doing. It isn't until this moment of self-sacrifice where she chooses her family over everything else that Jean finally becomes her own person.
She's right.
And ending back where we began, talking about evolution from human to mutant, and now mutant to freaking energy bird. There's comic precedent for this, even if you've just reminded me that Wolverine isn't here.
This is not the end of me. Or the X-Men.
Look, it's not subtle, but I don't hate it one bit. Fox's version of these characters ends here, but Jean Grey will live on. Literally in our Fox fan fictions, but also in the pages and under a new studio. My French may be rusty, but that says the old friends. Which, you know.
Came to see an old friend.
Really glad that Jean-Luc got to return to his native land. Wait.
I go easy on you.
No, you won't.
I love this ending. The score is melancholy because this is the end of us seeing these actors in these roles, but hopeful because it's not the end for them. Charles picks the white piece. Whether he used his power or not doesn't really matter. He's destined to be across the chessboard from Eric forever. Aw, and that's the Street of Peace. And even Jean checks in on her family now and then. Also, if you want to be a continuity buff and want to know why Jean is in the end of Days of Future Past, haven't you heard of backwards compatibility? If you can fly through space as a flaming bird, you can turn into Famke, and who wouldn't want to do that? Oh, Fox. I'm gonna miss the Fox X-Men. Not because all of the movies were the best, but end of an era, you know? I'll say, for all its failings, it got me feeling things by the end. But let's discuss some of the weaknesses. I talked a lot about the score. It's genuinely one of my favorite X-Men scores, and it's up there for Zimmer scores, but I'll admit that it probably contributed to something that put some people off. We're always on edge, waiting for the bad thing to happen. It's not something that bothers me personally, but in an X-Men movie, it can be a bit of a slog. This is where I admit that I wrote that before realizing how upbeat it becomes in a few scenes. All in all, though, the score is a positive. The pacing, however, feels rushed. We spend no time with any of the characters before they hop into space, something they would have spent a movie on between First Class and Days of Future Past. You can feel the urgency to just get through it, get to the next plot point. We do get moments here and there, but a lot of the soul feels stripped out. And that might be my biggest complaint. McAvoy and Fassbender crush it as usual, but Charles and Eric run basically the same arc again. Jessica Chastain is also mostly wasted even though her performance is pitch perfect. Honestly, when I saw the trailers, I was 90% sure she was a physical embodiment of the Phoenix Force that only Jean could see, and it would be a fun reveal in the end. And man, I might have liked that better. It's frustrating to learn that because of Captain Marvel, the Skrull storyline was dropped and the final act was reshot entirely because, well, you can see why. So clearly there was going to be way more for Jessica to do in the original script. And that's what's really sad to me. There's absolutely a good movie in here. I think it's just two movies. Part 1 of Jean's story should have taken place during Apocalypse, or more than the sliver than it was. Half character building, especially Jean's struggle alone, Jean with Scott, and Jean with Raven, and even keep the space mission where Jean gets the Phoenix Force. The second half of Part 1 should have been Jean slowly turning, making a bad decision here and there, but coming back. Then end at the Let Go battle with Apocalypse, pretty much the same, but have her accidentally kill Raven, pushing her over the edge and going full on, no holding back Dark Phoenix, just lose it. Be worse than Apocalypse was. Make Charles have severe consequences for pushing her. Torch the mansion for all I care. Oh wait, was it already blown up? It was already blown up. But Apocalypse was a much more plausible reason for Charles to push her anyway. Maybe even keep the aliens in Part 1 if you want, as vague as they are here, just lurking. But then for Part 2, you develop the aliens and their backstory so we care when Jean destroys them. In Part 2, make Jean the bad guy for the majority of the movie. Make it about her struggle to come back. There are a million different messages to be learned from mistakes and forgiveness and love of a family. Clearly that's first draft stuff. You need to tie the aliens into the Apocalypse storyline, but the biggest mistake they keep making is giving the Dark Phoenix saga only one movie. Outline it, plan it. I know it's easier said than done, especially with directors switching and studios being bought out. Then there's dumb stuff you could get stuck on, like 60s Magneto being played by a perfectly middle-aged Fassbender and none of the other characters aging in the last 2 decades. Whatever, I can easily let that stuff go. But enough of that. I still find this movie really enjoyable, even with those issues. I actually think I like the movie more than I dislike it. There's nothing visually wrong with the film at all. It's shot beautifully, the effects are all top-notch. The train sequence, even though it's slightly jarring photographically compared to the rest of the movie, is a really great action set piece, and the finale is visually stunning. I grinned in theaters because it's fun. It could have been more earned, but I still found myself rooting for Jean. Sophie Turner's American accent has improved exponentially. It was a primary concern of mine going in because there were a few stray English words in Apocalypse. It's funny, when I did Apocalypse, I made the comment that I thought it was Jennifer Lawrence's best performance as Mystique, and there was a consensus in the comments that she really phoned it in. And after watching the trilogy again, I realized that I don't love her as Mystique. So when she just sort of relaxed, I enjoyed the character more. I made the joke, and I can feel her let's get this over with attitude, but I don't mind it. She was an important character, and her death served something of a purpose. I mentioned it briefly, and I know it's not comic accurate, but I like that they leave it vague and never call the reddish, purplish, fiery lightning stuff that goes into Jean the Phoenix Force, even though it is just a force. That way, I can continue believing the Phoenix part is just Jean. The Force just amplified it. I know it sort of cuts the Phoenix Force off at the knees in a comic sense, but it works to allow some final continuity in this series. Which, even if it went out somewhere between a whimper and a roar, I'm still sad to see it end. But if you thought that some of my script notes for this movie were interesting, or you want to know how to create continuity in your own writing, today's sponsor SKILLSHARE has a hugely beneficial course all about storytelling. Daniel Jose Older, a New York Times best-selling author, created Storytelling 101, Character, Conflict, Context, and Craft. This is the type of course to get you excited about writing stories, whether you've never picked up a pen or have been writing for years. He will get you writing, and he breaks down each of those critical story creation elements in the class title and helps you tackle them to take your writing to the next level. It's been useful to me for writing fiction all the way to this type of writing you've been listening to. SKILLSHARE is an online learning community with millions of creators learning already in classes, from writing to web development to music and so much more. With a premium membership at only $10 a month, you can get full access to every single class. And if you use my link at the top of the description to sign up, you can get 2 months for free. So that's 2 months to start improving your skills or learning new skills and ultimately help you do the work you love. So check out the link, the one on screen and in the description. It's a mega help to the channel, and with 2 free months, there's nothing to lose.
Are we destined to a fate beyond our control? Or can we evolve?
Peace was never an option.
Become something more. I evolved beyond this world. This is not the end of me or the X-Men. It's a new beginning.